Everyone, I'd like to call the meeting to order at 2:31. Renee, could you do the roll call?
Absolutely. Good afternoon. Directors Bryant.
Here.
Detrick.
Here.
Hedges.
Here.
Paulo. Here. McKee.
Here.
Hewer.
Here.
Natoli. Schmidt. Nava.
Here.
Fox.
Here.
And Gatewood.
Renee, would you do the Metro replay?
Oh, and I apologize, Director. I forgot Matt Reed. Okay, thank you. You have a quorum.
Thank you. Would you do the Metro replay statement?
Absolutely. This meeting of the Sacramento Metropolitan Cable Television Commission is cable cast live on Metro Cable 14, the local government affairs channel, and the Comcast Consolidated Communications and the AT&T U-verse cable systems. This meeting is closed caption and is webcast at www.sacmetrocable.tv and will replay on Saturday, October 6th at noon and Sunday, October 7th at 9 a.m. on Metro Cable 14. Members of the audience wishing to address the board should fill out a speaker identification form located at the back podium and hand it to the clerk.
Thank you, Renee. Commissioner Nava, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Happy to. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Josh, would you read the next item for us?
Your next item is your conference with legal counsel. So you adjourn to closed session.
Okay, we're going to adjourn to closed session and we'll report back after that. Renee, can you give me the next item?
Absolutely. Your next item is Resolution Number 2018-014, adopting the fiscal year 2018-2019 final general fund budget, and Resolution Number 2018-015, adopting the fiscal year 2018-2019 final PEG fee fund budget.
Okay, good afternoon. Yes, afternoon. Bob Davison, your Executive Director, and I have a PowerPoint presentation for this item. So I'll be pointing out there are some changes from proposed budget to final budget, and significantly for the general fund. So the PowerPoint deals with the general fund, and there's some adjustments to the PEG fund budget as well, which I'll go over after the PowerPoint. Okay. Well, I'm showing my ineptitude at technology. Let's try this one. Okay. One of them works. So first of all, we have adjustments to revenue. We have a little bit more interest, which is always good. We have just completed the commission audit for 2 fiscal years, and that is later on on today's agenda. But as part of that audit, the auditor goes through and adjusts the books. And with adjusting the books, sometimes they make changes to the funds. So there is a reduction in the carry forward fund balance based upon the adjustments that are made by the auditor. If you recall, 2 years ago, we had such adjustments. The general fund, actually, 2 years ago, I think, actually had some extra, and then the PEG fund, there were some adjustments that were made that we had to adjust for. Well, today there is a reduction to the general fund, which, quite frankly, with contingency and such, would have been pretty surmountable without much of an issue with the member agencies. Except, I think, more significantly, is the middle row there. Franchise fees are trending down significantly lower than even what we were presenting at proposed budget. So I'll go to the next slide and I'll try to explain a little bit about what's going on. So here is our graph of franchise fees that goes back till just after DIVCA, actually, the 2007-8 budget year. And you can see, for a good portion of that time, things were going up, things were going up, things were going up. And then starting in 15-16, there's a lot of issues, but most significantly that was affecting this graph here was AT&T abandoning their UVerse product and going towards a DirecTV over-the-top product that doesn't pay franchise fees. So we have been adjusting for that and watching that, and that's, I think, been part of the commission discussion over the last couple of years. So when you look at last year's revenue, franchise fee revenue for, by the way, this is for all 3 cable companies combined. So this is a combination of Comcast, AT&T, and I almost said SureWest Consolidated Communications. Last year, we actually received $13.9 million in franchise fee revenue. So we had budgeted, I think, $13,750,000 for this year, and that looked to be about the trend, where the trend was taking franchise fees. So we were trying to even be a little bit conservative. But now we got the first 2 quarters of 2018 franchise fees receipts, and in addition to the continued reductions that we're experiencing with AT&T, Comcast revenues for those quarters are between 6 and 7% lower than what they were last year. And so that's the new trend that is significant, that is different. And in addition, consolidated, the first quarter was down about 3%, which wouldn't be that alarming, but the next quarter is down 10%. So I can't explain, obviously, exactly why it's going down. In regards to Comcast, we did reach out to our auditor, who's audited Comcast in the past, and our auditor has told us that jurisdictions across the nation are experiencing the same thing, even larger numbers, like 10% reductions in Comcast revenues. And again, this is just what, and I believe that some of the jurisdictions did get a response from Comcast, and I think this has to do with a change in their accounting practices. So they feel that there's a change in accounting practices that they can legally take that looks like it's reducing our franchise fee revenues by at least 6 to 7% so far, and it's can't predict what's going to be in line for the next couple of quarters. So,
Mr.
Mr. Natoli.
Yeah, and Bob, just on that, while you have this chart up, then you said that you were showing I guess in second quarter or second part of the year, a 10% versus what was it, 3%. So the trend, and with this last reference to change in accounting standards, which I think raises a point, an interesting point, is, and you said that maybe 6 or 7%. You attribute that to the change in accounting methodology, or is it a combination of elements, or for what you can decipher, I guess, from the information that's available to you?
yeah, and I certainly don't know for sure,
Right.
but just from the little bit of information I got from reaching out to our auditor, I do believe that Comcast has went on record in responding to many of the jurisdictions that have been seeing similar and citing accounting. I should have brought that email. I could have just read it for you.
Sure.
So I don't have that, but to say that the 6 to 7% that we're seeing is directly related to that, that's really impossible to tell until we actually do an audit of the commission. Audit of the Comcast franchise fees.
Okay, that clarifies. I guess just to the broader point with the information that was transmitted to you, is that something that can be done unilaterally? Is under a contractual relationship, again, this is not so much a legal question, but just kind of a practical one, that if they're accepted accounting standards, obviously things may evolve over time based upon those who regulate the the businesses. But is it your opinion that unilaterally, whether it's here in this community or elsewhere, that business firms can just do that, and that this commission and other communities have to just accept it, or what's the route, if in fact that's the explanations offered beyond any legal parameters? Is there somebody else we reach out to legislatively and or a regulatory framework to say, how can this happen here or elsewhere? Obviously, I'm concerned about what happens here, but it may be reflective of what they're doing elsewhere. So.
Yeah, I can absolutely reach out to other jurisdictions, and I could work with Best and Krieger, and they have a network and are very steeped in even the issues that go beyond legal that are affecting the cable industry. So I can certainly review this situation more, and in future meetings provide a response on what's going on for certain.
Okay.
I assume it'll also, that's what our auditors review as well, correct?
Right, and we're actually seeing, we have past audits where we've had findings related to issues on how the accounting of Comcast gross revenues has translated into franchise fees. And there has been not agreement on this in the past, and now it seems like the trend has changed to even more reduction for the franchise fees, unless it's coincidental and that they're seeing, migration to other companies or to other platforms, over the top that don't produce franchise fees.
Could I just ask, Mr. Chair, that's what I was going to ask as a follow-on, was that point there, in fairness to the discussion, if there's a change in the subscribership rates that translates into less gross revenues or other factors, one company is losing business to another company, but maybe that's made up in the overall. But if in fact there's a counter to this that says, well, no, gross revenues are going up, and or holding steady, which may not be the optimum, but not going down, and yet there's 6 or 7%, maybe 10% less return to the commission, which is dollars go back into the community for all the things that this commission funds, then I think that ought to be part of the discussion here as well. And and again, without getting too deep into it, but just to your point, Mr. Chair, I think that the auditor will look at some of that, but maybe there's another chart that shows subscribership, maybe it shows gross revenues, and again, some of that may be proprietary that we don't have access to, but I think from the standpoint of keeping this commission and the folks we represent well informed, if we had that information, maybe going back and working through, Best and Krieger, but if there's other information out there, I think it's appropriate to see, because again, maybe there's more explanation to this, but if it's, if revenues are going up like this and we're seeing it coming down here because somebody changed an accounting standard, that says one thing to me versus a combination of other things that may be working that result in less revenues. That may be the reality of what we're dealing with overall, not just in this community but elsewhere, because like you said, migration to other platforms or whatever. But I'd be curious to know that, and obviously it's not a burning issue, but one I think that, if this trend continues in that vein, just as you started in whenever that is, 2007, 8, and the trend, that's not a plateau, that's a pretty steep decline year over year over a 2.5-year period. So that's significant. That's revenue to all the jurisdictions and to all the things we do. So
Yeah, and I agree that, so if you're looking at market trends, is there people using the internet more? Is there, is there a decline in their customers? Is there people using in the industry moving to internet, dish, whatever, some other platforms rather than cable? Commissioner Hedges.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Just want to reiterate the comments from Commissioner Natoli. We've seen, and it seems to me that around the time that we've seen this reduction happen is around the time that we've seen a massive growth of different various alternatives that people can use to access their television. There's a lot of internet services that previously weren't available. I know the younger generation is getting into a lot of cutting the cord aspect of things, which will directly impact this. And so I'd be very curious to see the impacts of subscriber rates and if this is something that we can expect more of in the future, even if this PEG fee issue is resolved.
That's certainly something that we can review and bring back to the commission at a future meeting.
Bob, were you finished with your report, or are you still in the middle of it?
Still more PowerPoint.
Okay.
So that's pretty much this slide. So with that, we're proposing adjustments to the budget. Unfortunately, the largest affects the member agencies, and is a reduction of just over 8% to the member agency revenue distribution. We've reduced the amount that we were putting into reserves, cut equipment a little bit, and reduced our contingency, but we honestly didn't have a lot of fat areas of the budget, nor do I recommend releasing any reserves because of I think reserves need to be preserved for the future, especially given the volatile nature of the cable business these days. So with that, I just want to show you that. So these are all the individual member agencies. I won't read through these numbers, but this shows their proposed budget, which was shared with all the member agencies, and the final budget numbers and what the difference is. And just so you know, also, yesterday I sent out an email to all the member agencies just alerting them that this meeting was going on, that we were taking this up, and that summarizing succinctly what some of the issues are that we're experiencing, and that it's likely that the revenue distributions to be received at the end of this fiscal year could be lower. So with that, that is the general fund presentation. The PEG fund, and unfortunately, we had an error, and I'm glad we caught it. So on the dais is a revised PEG fee fund budget. Basically, we had an error in our fund balance carry forward, and also there are certain member agencies that didn't finish their PEG projects, so that their PEG projects rolled over into this year. We hadn't captured that correctly on the budget. So rather than do another mid-year adjustment, we did catch it, and so I've provided a revised PEG fee budget, and it's on the dais. And even though we are experiencing the same reduction of revenue, that's also hitting the PEG side because of some carryover monies and such. It's just not as significant of an issue to deal with, at least today, as the franchise fee budget. So with that, that's the end of the final budget presentation, and I could answer any more questions that you might have.
Any questions for Bob?
Yes. Thanks, Bob. Our reserve levels on these two, are they at a comfortable level for our staff? I mean, is this where we feel like we should be, or are we at a level where we need to start worrying about this?
Well, Chair, I'm sorry, Vice Chair.
No worries. No offense.
I think that's a very good question. It's a question that Karen and myself have been discussing recently. I think we are very close to our target, which we created before, but there's a couple things going on. There's the potential sunset of the commission. There's the pension liability, which we want to review and bring back to the board for further discussion in the future, and also the volatile nature of franchise fees. We're at about 1.2 million in our reserves, so that's a good number, and that's around the target that we had previously picked before. I do want to come back at a future meeting and address reserves with this board, and in your very question.
Do you know which meeting that would be?
I would hope either this December or next March.
Thank you.
But certainly in time, one of the meetings prior to next year's budget meeting.
Good.
Any other questions? I said one comment, Bob, is when you sent me that you had sent that email out, I thought that was huge to be able to kind of give advance notice that to all the members that there's going to potentially be a reduction. So
Yeah.
giving everybody a heads up for this meeting, so if there was any feedback that somebody had, it gave each of the cities and county the opportunity to give that feedback. So with that, since there's no other questions, I'll open public comment. I don't have any speakers signed up. I don't see anybody running down to the podium. Gary, the opportunity for you to talk. We'll go ahead and go to board deliberation and direction. Is there any deliberation from the members? Okay, I see none. So is there a motion to approve the resolution number? Does the resolution need to be read in? Do you need it, or can we just go on staff's?
Let's see. How about it's recommended that the board approve resolution number 2018-014, attachment 1, adopting the fiscal year general fund 94A budget, and resolution number 2018-015, the revised version, which is on the dais and labeled agenda item 2, exhibit 2, and that's adopting the fiscal year 18-19 final PEG fee fund 94B budget, along with all the documents that are included in the staff report.
Okay, do we have a motion? We have a motion from Mr. Natoli. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and a second. Vote on your screen, please.
Unanimous vote.
Perfect. Motion passes. Next item.
Your next item is adopt resolution number 2018-017, approving the agreement for the management services with the County of Sacramento.
Okay, so as some of you know, I was hired as executive director in 2006. I'm actually a County of Sacramento employee. I'm the county engineer for the County of Sacramento, but I also serve as the executive director of the Cable Commission. Just the arrangement is that I do get a differential on this county side, and on the Cable Commission side, the county charges for my hourly service to the commission, but I don't get those hourly dollars that the county does, but I do get that 10% differential. Anyway, I was hired in 2006, and there was an original agreement that specified those terms, and it also specified that when I'm executive director of the Cable Commission, I work for the Cable Commission at the direction of this board and not at the direction of the county board or any other board or council. So that agreement expired in 2009, and since then, both parties have continued to honor the terms of that agreement, but hasn't been an extension of that agreement yet. We've conferred, I believe we've discussed at this board before, and we've conferred with council that was appropriate, that was legal for that to continue, assuming both parties were in concurrence. But now I've talked to some county management, and I think there's appetite at the county to take this agreement to the board. So with that, I worked with legal counsel to update the agreement, and also to provide that I believe the original agreement identified my old position as the executive director, and I don't want to all of a sudden bring that person over. So now I am the division chief of the county engineering division, and so that change is made. And also, this agreement doesn't have a termination date, but says can be terminated by either party with 60 days notice. The fiscal impact, there's a minimum cost of about $57,000 per year, and that's the minimum rate, and that's based on 6 hours a week. I know I work more than 6 hours a week, but sometimes at home, but the county can charge for more than the minimum rate, and so I think typically that amount, Karen can correct me if I'm wrong, but it has been around $70,000 to $80,000. Is that about right? Mm-hmm. Okay. So with that, I recommend that Commission Board adopt the attached resolution approving the agreement for management services with the County of Sacramento.
Do we have any questions for Bob?
You know, Bob, if you keep getting promoted, you're going to be too big for us soon.
Yeah,
So-
the balance is always the art, and balancing the home life, you know. So I'm not just doing this at 8 o'clock and not with the kids, but I do my best to balance all obligations, and I enjoy working for the county, and I enjoy this job. So.
Thank you, Bob. So we'll open and close public comments since there's no one signed up to speak, and ask for a motion to adopt the resolution that was just read in. We have a motion in a second. All those in favor, please vote on screen.
Unanimous vote with those present.
Okay, motion passes. Next item, please.
Your next item is addition of second Metro Cable Technical Coordinator position.
Okay, so basically, right now, for the technical part of what Metro Cable does, and it's quite a lot, it's obviously getting these meetings and council and board meetings and such on TV. The crew that worked with the equipment. We've had a technical coordinator position for a long time, and several years ago, because of that increased activity, especially with the advent of the PEG fee, which pretty much doubled that work, we brought on the technical assistant position. Well, now we've had a technical assistant. His name's Kevin Benyon, and I don't see him out here. He should come out here because...
There he is.
Okay, he's out here.
They have your back, Bob.
It's good to have a staff that has your back, right? Anyway, he's not working at the assistant level anymore. We've outlined what he does in this staff report, so I won't go into the detail, but his expertise, his skill is really at a higher level to, just to continue to have him as a entry-level assistant position. So, the technical coordinator position is a technical position that reports to the production director. So the technical coordinator position is not like a position that has staff and such. So in other words, there can be two technical coordinators. There's nothing wrong with that. And it's a position that we already have too. And actually the bottom step of that position actually starts right above the top step of the technical assistant position. So with that, I would certainly like to promote Kevin to the technical coordinator position. But with that, I need some board action today. So with the approval of today's resolution, contingent upon my promotion of a candidate to the technical coordinator position, that would fund an additional technical coordinator position and unfund technical assistant position. So with that, I recommend that the board approve adding the second technical coordinator position and removing the TA position from the list of funded positions for fiscal year 18-19, contingent upon my promotion of a candidate to the technical coordinator position, the second position. And I might have mentioned there was a resolution. It's actually an action by your board, not a resolution. So.
Okay, is there any questions, Bob?
Bob, just to be clear, he was at a final step right below this step one?
No, he's not at the final step, just to be honest, but he's certainly working and has the aptitude to work at the entry-level step for that technical coordinator position. So it's more than a 5% bump for him.
But the step he's on right now is just below this step one?
The step he is at now is at the middle step. So the recommendation is to promote him to step 1 of the technical coordinator position. So he's right in the middle right now.
But the amount that he's currently getting is just a bit below this bottom step that we're at now. Is that correct?
So is he at step 3, Karen?
I believe it equates to a 16% increase in his salary.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I assume the 5,600 is the total compensation for the increase?
Correct.
With all the
For the
indirects-
remaining
with all the
fiscal year.
indirects and overheads.
For the remaining fiscal year.
Perfect. Any other questions? Open public comment, closed public comment, and is there a motion to approve the addition of the second Metro Cable technical coordinator position? There's a motion? Oh, yes, we have a motion and a second. Please vote.
Oh, I did want Kevin to stand up and I did want to thank Kevin. He's well deserving of this, and so.
Question?
I don't want to, I'm not going to vote twice. That's what my only question. I'm trying to log out, and it's not logging out.
Anyway,
Unless you want 2 votes, but I don't think that's the way it works around here, so.
We're not in New York.
Want me to
No.
clear it and do it again?
Huh? Yeah, why don't you just clear it, yeah.
You're good?
Yeah.
Okay. Has everyone's voted? Yes. Mr. Natoli, you're good with your vote?
Yeah, I got a recuse and a yes, so,
And
because I
you're
can't
good?
clear that screen, so.
you want to do a voice?
I'm going to vote
Should we do a
yes.
voice vote?
Let me try it.
That's the coordinator right here.
Okay, you want us to
Now
Try
revote?
it, try it again. Let's take it again,
Okay,
please.
just one time. Okay, I got it.
Well, you don't waste any time.
Otherwise, I'm going to start
And
rumors
take the
that
vote again, please.
our county supervisor votes twice.
No, nothing.
You good, Renee?
Mr. Fox. There we go. Unanimous vote.
Perfect.
Thank you.
Congratulations, Kevin.
Thank you.
I even tried to vote twice, Kevin, see?
That doesn't add to the salary if there's more votes. Thank you. Thanks, Kevin.
Congratulations. Next item, Renee.
Your next item is your audited financial statements and other reports for the fiscal years ended June 30th, 2016 and June 30th, 2017.
Okay, this item I'm actually particularly proud of, and I think it goes to Karen and her admin staff, Mary, who's here today, and Jennifer as well. This is a really clean audit. So those auditors, they come in and they're there for weeks, and they look through everything, and to get an audit that that says that there's no significant deficiencies, no findings related to any significant deficiencies is excellent, and I'm very happy about that. So, and I do want to compliment my staff. There are 2 findings, and they're pretty minor findings. One is having to do with fixed assets and assigning residual values. If a fixed asset is going to be surplus, there's really no residual value, so it's a practice that we will change based upon the auditor's recommendations. And they want us to implement, or suggesting that we implement, a risk assessment process. So I'm going to meet with staff and maybe our consultant HR to go, possibly BB&K, but review the audit finding related to a risk assessment process, and that would be a future item for this board. So with that, I recommend that you receive and file the audits for the fiscal years ended June 30, 16 and June 30, 17.
Any questions for Bob?
No, great work.
Yeah, congratulations on a really, really clean audit. I've been involved with a lot of audits, and to have those minor items is a testimony of what you guys have been able to do. Congratulations. Thank you.
Yeah.
So we open and close public comments since we have no one to speak, and it's a receive and file. So next item, please.
Your next item is resolution number 2018-016. It's amending the Conflict of Interest Code for the Sacramento Metropolitan Cable to Television Commission. It's an update to the designated positions for calendar year 2018.
And this is a minor update to our Conflict of Interest Code, basically replacing the Citrus Heights Brett Daniels with Mayor Steve Miller, and I think that's the only major change. We did put a revised resolution and attachment on the dais. There's some language that the County of Sacramento, who manages the conflict of interest process for us and for many jurisdictions in the county, wanted some language in there that we did not have in the staff report that we presented to you. So we provided the revised resolution, and now we recommend that you approve the resolution amending the Conflict of Interest Code.
Okay, any questions above? So we have a motion from Natoli. Do we have a second? Okay, you got a second? All those vote on screen, please.
Bless you.
Bless you.
Unanimous vote.
Very good.
Okay.
So motion passes. Next item.
Your next item is calendar year 2019 quarterly board meeting schedule.
So you can refer to the attachment. As we've done the past several years, the commission will meet on the first Thursday of March, June, September, and December. If there's any changes, Karen will coordinate that with your staffs. So,
Perfect.
with that, yeah, I recommend that you adopt the quarterly board meeting schedule.
So we'll open and close public comment. There's no speakers signed up. And it's a receive and file. If there's no comments, next item.
Your next item is your general administration report.
Okay. Let's see. So I'm going to go right to the second item. So there are a couple of things that staff is watching that could have some significant impact. There's a small cell order which doesn't directly affect the Cable Commission, but it actually, if you recall, we joined a coalition before that was fighting a similar Verizon proposed initiative in California that basically dictated that these small cells, without much review and with limiting the fees, could put their attachments on poles and such in other places in the right of way. So that was not successful in California, but now the FCC has just reviewed that, and Josh Nelson from BB&K has more information on that. But before I turn over to Josh, I'll just introduce both items. And the second, I think, is a significant issue. The FCC is taking on looking at offsets to franchise fees based upon in-kind cost. So, for example, right now we get our franchise fees, we get our PEG fees, but the companies don't get an offset for the PEG channels that they provide or other things that they likely provide that are related to PEG. So if the FCC approves these orders, without amendment, then the local video cable companies, they can take offsets for some of these things, and that's either a significant threat to franchise fees, or B, a significant threat to public education, government, television, not only in Sacramento, but in the nation. And with that, turn it over to Josh.
Yeah, thanks, Bob. So the FCC at its September meeting approved two orders that are relevant to the commission. The first, as Bob mentioned, is what we call the small cell order. What it did was really for the first time interject the FCC into whether and how local agencies process small cell and put small cells, and just a brief introduction to what a small cell is. A small cell is essentially a very small antenna, which is being rolled out by a number of the telecommunications companies, largely part of their 5G effort. So to increase speeds, the idea is to densify the number of antennas, because that helps the technology work in ways that are over my head. But Historically, at least in California, local agencies have had pretty much complete discretion over the rents that are charged and the placement of those facilities, as long as they are located on things that are not telephone related. So if someone wanted to put a small cell on a power, on a stoplight owned by the city, you could charge them rent and you could decide whether or not to allow that. And a number of cities have taken advantage of that, and there's sort of been a market that's developed as to what reasonable amounts are to, for rent for those facilities. What the FCC's order does is it essentially requires local agencies to permit telecommunications providers to install small cells on city-owned or county-owned facilities in the right-of-way. And it also modifies the rental structure, and it creates what it calls a presumptively reasonable rental amount of approximately $275. And it expressly bases that rental amount on the cost to the city or county of processing and installing the small cell, and not what the market might bear as a reasonable amount. We think that's a significant intrusion into local control, especially given that telecommunications, telephone-related, internet-related facilities are generally exempt from paying things like local franchise fees. And this was one revenue generator for local agencies that's under threat. This order was adopted by the FCC, and our firm and a number of others are putting together coalitions and efforts to challenge this at the federal appellate courts. We think there are significant constitutional issues with the FCC's order. The second order that Bob mentioned, and I would agree much more directly related to the commission itself, is the in-kind order. So, under federal law, there's generally a 5% cap on franchise fees. It's 5% of gross revenues. But historically, the FCC has exempted contributions that a cable provider might make to a local agencies for providing PEG channels from that 5% cap. This order would look at changing that so that PEG contributions would count against that 5%, and as Bob mentioned, would either lead to a reduction in franchise fees or a reduction in the amount of PEG support. The other important thing for the commission on the in-kind order is that historically, when the FCC has looked at how to handle these PEG issues, they have exempted states that have a statewide franchising law from the order, with the idea that they're so new, we have to kind of see what happens. In this order, the FCC expressly is looking at applying whatever they adopt to states like California that have a statewide franchise. So in a worst case scenario, this could result in a reduction of our franchise fees or a loss of PEG support. This is just a proposal right now before the FCC. They have invited comments, and our firm and others are putting together a group of agencies to try to submit comments to the FCC to encourage them not to adopt any sort of proposal like this, given the threat to PEG.
And just to add to that, it's not before you today. I do have contract authority up to $50,000 for legislative type support, and my requirement is that if I enter into such a contract, I have to report it to the chair and then report it at the next meeting. And I do plan to participate in the coalition, that will be fighting this FCC order.
Thank you. Any questions for Bob or Josh?
I do on the small cell issue, and I know it's a little bit maybe out of the purview of this commission, since those revenues aren't collected by this commission, but it's an issue with the city of Sacramento, and I wonder are they preempting encroachment authority for are they requiring municipalities to allow these small cell locations?
Yes, essentially they're limiting encroachment authority and requiring cities to approve those in some instances.
Okay.
The one thing about Sacramento and other cities that have existing agreements with providers, Those existing agreements are not necessarily invalid, but someone could challenge them as not consistent with the FCC order if it stands.
Thank you.
Yeah, at the city of Elk Grove, I think I sent Bob a copy of the letter that we sent in from our city. I don't know if the other cities have as well. We definitely want to maintain governance over the placement because if I'm not mistaken, AT&T is trying to get the small cell rights where they basically just have the rights to blanket anywhere they see fit within the city. And we don't want to have that as being out of the hands of our Public Works and our Planning Department to have review and oversight over that.
And I'm aware of the County of Sacramento submitted similar comments as well to that.
Are you aware of if local jurisdictions, while we're fighting this, have to comply with this, or is this something that will be on hold until the fight has been kind of settled?
So I don't.
I mean, local jurisdictions have to give more. I mean, do you understand what I'm saying, Josh? Or should I?
I need to double check. My understanding is that there's a request for the FCC to stay the order while it's being appealed, but I don't remember how that has been decided at this point, but I can follow up and let you know.
Thank you.
Have we reached out to all of our the agencies that we represent?
Not yet on this issue, not yet, but that may be an appropriate action in the near future. I have conversed with. I did forward to the county legislative advocate just because I know her very well, the BB&K, and the newsletter that BB&K sent out on this, which I believe went to most member agencies.
I believe it did too, but we could certainly forward that if the commission would like.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So, Bob, you have the rest of the item you still need to go over?
Oh, yes. So going back to item 1, Comcast calendar year 15-16 audit update. I just wanted to let the board know that that's still being worked on with our auditor. We had agendized it for the last agenda, and then some issues came up, so we decided to pull it from the agenda and continue to work on that audit. And so I hope that will be here for the next meeting.
Okay.
So that's all I have on that item. And then so the next item is something that we have discussed at this board before. We've talked about possibly, how the resources of the commission could be leveraged. And I know Sarah Polo brought in some ideas that were either hers or Gara's.
Eric's, but
okay.
yeah.
Just want to clarify that. I want to credit the right person, and about possibly doing some PSAs. And so what they did do is they went out and they worked with Access Sacramento to prepare a public service announcement, and I've reviewed it. Sarah, would you like to say any words before we tee that up?
No, just appreciate all of you letting us try this out and treat it as a pilot. And Eric showed it at all of his summer movie nights, which he holds throughout his district. And everyone loved it, and they had a lot of questions, and it sparked a lot of discussion about being water-wise. So, and I think you have the video to show?
Yes. So if we can play that video.
These darn sprinklers, I can't get them to work.
Hey there, Councilman Guetta. Are you having trouble? Do you know where you can get help for your sprinklers?
Sacramento WaterWise is a program created by the city that has services to help you out.
You can get a rebate to get more efficient water sprinklers and up to $1,500 to replace your turf with drought-tolerant plant.
Call 916-264-5011 for a free WaterWise house call.
I wish I knew that 2 hours ago. I'll give them a call now.
Sacramento City is committed to water conservation and efficiency. There are many resources available to help you. You can visit sacwaterwise.com to get started today.
And yeah, Eric used, as you can see, the youth commissioners. We had talked about having high school students and our youth in the greater Sacramento area being involved in these. And so we did that. And I think there was some additional points we wanted to make, that this didn't come out of commission dollars, that Eric's staff did all of the legwork on developing the script, making sure they didn't violate any campaign rules and not making sure it's not a commercial, and following Access Sac's guidelines for PSAs, and working with the city's Department of Utilities to make sure the information was correct. So it took, I think, very little. Gary could elaborate if he'd like later, but I think it took very little time, and it was pretty efficient because there was a lot of legwork done on the back end ahead of time. So
That's great.
Great, thank you.
Any other comments on this? Okay.
Your next item is channel licensee reports.
All right. So we'll go ladies first. Liz Rhodes.
Good afternoon. I'm Liz Rhodes with the Sacramento Educational Cable Consortium, and it has been an exhausting summer. We have a new home, we have a new look, and we have a lot of new projects. So I think we have sent out a notice, and you'll see in a minute our new logo, which kind of encapsulates a little bit more about who we are and what we actually do. We're really excited about it. And it's kind of given us a little push to get out there and do a little bit more with our SIVA labs that you fund. So first off, we are going to be funding the first half of those 10 new ones for the first half of the year. And that's half the money. Some of those sites are enhancements and expansions within the school, which is fantastic. We've got one site where they're asking for each of the grades to have their own, their own kit to go out and do, field production, and then bring it back to the studio that you funded. So it's very exciting. We've got over 40 plus now. These new 10 put us well over 50. And the teachers are enthusiastic, they're excited. So one of the things that we've done and we added to our program this year is that we coordinate all of those SIVA teachers and all media teachers, and we bring them together. We're going to bring them together 4 times in the evening. We give them dinner, and the idea is that they share. And the camaraderie between those teachers is incredible. We've already had the middle schools going to the high school, so the articulation between the two is phenomenal. We have a forum online for them to exchange ideas, and it's just growing tremendously. And I wish there was a way that you could see the enthusiasm and the excitement, and then how that translates to the work that the students do. We've got a couple of new ones that have just started their morning shows. If you look on our website, you can see the new morning shows. We're trying to get everything out there, not only on the cable channels, but also on the internet and YouTube and the district websites. The districts have been very supportive, and the districts are also celebrating these SIVA teachers. So we have what we call our SIVA Teacher of the Week, where we take one teacher, we interview the students, and a lot of that we've already had canned from last year, and we put it together, and it's a way to celebrate with the community the awesome work that these teachers are doing, and we have one that I'm going to show you in just a minute. The other thing that we've done is, and I'm very excited about this, is the collaboration between the districts with what we're calling a family engagement forum. A lot of our districts have, family engagement units or parent universities called FACE, where they reach out, and the idea is to help the parents help their students succeed and kind of get over the hurdles within, their students' lives, and collaboration and cooperation and communication, with the home. And some of the districts in our area are very blessed and have very large staffs, and some districts, for example, Elk Grove, only has one person. And what we're finding is everybody's on the same page, everybody is trying to do the same thing. So we've pulled these people together, we've pulled together the work that they've done, and you'll see in a minute a little PSA we put together. So we are actually programming content that they have produced, or content that we've been able to pull in from other sources. And so the sharing that's going on with that, and that outreach into the community to help the parents, is growing tremendously. And then we took the SIVA, I don't know how many of you are aware that October is anti-bullying month. So we took the PSAs that the students did from the SIVA labs, and we've paired them with some of these programs and are dropping them in not only on the websites, but on the cable channels. So again, in Sacramento, we're so unique that we have this ability to cooperate and to collaborate and to put the content on the channels, as well as put them on the district websites, on the district YouTubes, on the school YouTubes. So the growth is phenomenal. So having said all of that, if we could roll the tape, I'll give you just a quick look at those 3 projects. First with our brand new logo.
My media teacher is Mrs. Knoll.
Miss Knoll is very into technology, and she is an awesome teacher.
She's really nice, and how she's taught me about media is she has helped me understand like how to edit, how to use WeVideo. If you need to know how to change a background or something, she'll tell you, and then she'll make it look easy.
Well, she is an amazing teacher, and when I ask her for help, she's willing to and not like, again.
And I really respect her. She's my favorite teacher of all time.
She's just an amazing teacher, the best teacher I ever had.
Way of celebrating the teachers, the districts have picked up on it and are putting it on their websites and sending it out, and so we have 1 a week. And then our family engagement.
The Family Engagement Forum is an education collaboration in Sacramento that believes in encouraging relationships with families and schools to actively support their students' learning and development. Tune in to SECC Channel 15 every week for tips on how to help your student succeed.
Everywhere from why school attendance is important to what college, how do you fill out a FAFSA, and some of the districts are so far ahead of others. Oh, I forgot we put this on there, my bad. The PSAs, I was talking about anti-bullying. Done by one of our students. So, yeah, it is just nice that it all comes together. I just have to say thank you for all your support and your help in making this all possible, because none of it happens without you. So thanks.
Thank you for all that you do. I actually know Tammy Knoll. She's actually had me part of one of her videos with her classrooms and had them have the opportunity to interview an elected official. And, you know, she's got the green room set up in her classroom and does all the video and does I think she's eliminated books. She does everything with technology and tries to tie it in with real experiences rather than typical book learning. And so just thinking outside the box, phenomenal lady.
Yeah, and if you've been in the classroom, you see how those students want to be there and they're engaged and they're not bored, and you compare that maybe to some other classrooms where not so much. And it's these teachers that, it's from their heart. You know, they put in their time, and it doesn't work without those dynamic teachers, and they're just growing tremendously in our area, and we're really blessed to have them. So it's, like I said, our way of saying thank you and giving them a shout out. So
it gets down to kids are our future. So it's and the opportunities these kids are getting to actually use camera equipment, video equipment, editing in elementary school. It's phenomenal. Thank you for what you've been able to do from elementary all the way up into college. So what you guys have done is phenomenal.
We have a great team here in Sacramento. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, next one is Gary Martin.
Good afternoon. I'm Gary Martin, Executive Director at Access Sacramento. And like Liz, we want to thank all of you for the support that you give to Public Access 17 and 18. We're doing very well currently with a variety of hometown and Game of the Week activities. We're, of course, out for Friday night football. This coming Friday, tomorrow, we'll be at the Wood Creek at Antelope game, and the CVC, I think, is the right conference with the live game. We did a community college game last week with Sierra at Sacramento City College. So a variety of things going on with sports. In hometown TV, we recently were at the Latino Festival in District 8 for the city of Sacramento. And this last Sunday, we're at Sac State for the Papa Voter Forum. That project was recorded and will be on our channels in relatively short order. So a variety of things going on. I can tell you that our enrollment, in part thanks to all of you, with new equipment over the last couple of years, is translating into our highest enrollment ever, with nearly 450 members who are creating content and putting on our channels. Likewise, our radio station, KUBU, the only station where you can be you on the radio, 96.5 FM, is broadcasting this meeting right now. And you can tune in this low-power FM station in your car. One nice thing about what you were all able to do for the community was to fund that radio station, which will now be in its 5th year on November 13th. By broadcasting these meetings, people who do not have cable can listen to those meetings free for the City of Sacramento and the Board of Supervisors. So that's a part of what you've been able to do for the community in increasing your own outreach. The handout that I just shared with you, and of course I gave away the last one. Bob, I'm going to borrow yours back just for a second.
Fine.
Thank you. The handout that I just gave you is for a place called Sacramento. Now in its 19th year is the All Sacramento Film Festival. It starts off in January through March with a script writing competition. The 10 best scripts from all of those entries come together as 10-minute shorts. And the option for those folks then with the 10 best scripts to create those films ends up with the award of a world premiere, which normally you have this meeting in September, so I don't have this to show you, but now in October, this Saturday, will be our 19th film festival at the Crest Theater. And I can tell you as of this morning, that event is a sold-out event. The Crest Theater is the largest movie theater in the area. We hold seating at 920. And so we're going to have a huge crowd there for the world premiere of 10 films all about a place called Sacramento. The option on providing stories that do not exist otherwise without this type of support cannot be stressed enough. Community diversity and the opportunity to understand those things that make Sacramento special is truly showcased and celebrated in this particular film festival. And to give you a highlight, we have a variety of stories that are in this year's festival. If you open the pamphlet and open it to poster size on the inside, you'll see the 10 stories. But Tono Sameso features a disabled woman who is blind, who aspires to be a sommelier, and I don't know French, I probably mispronounced that, but it's a person who pairs wine with food in a restaurant and makes those right matches. It's her story of getting a job along those lines. Swipe Right is the story of online dating. And I feature those two stories in our conversation here today in part because our festival is also getting some love from Channel 31. If you tune in the 7 a.m. hour tomorrow morning, you'll be able to find out more about a place called Sacramento from those two films. The Gift is the story of a relationship with a married couple who are at their 3rd anniversary. The story of Jane and Joe is truly unique. In our 19th year, this is our first musical. A 10-minute musical, which is quite a challenge in general, but we're excited about that because it is our first ever. And then I do also want to mention a story called The Disappeared, because it ties in with this area very dramatically. It's the partially true story of refugees who come from Central America and El Salvador, who have come to our community, and how one family in that community is dealing with an elderly parent who has Alzheimer's. So these stories are told through the benefit of a film festival that we support through Access Sacramento. It is a fundraiser for us as well, but more importantly, it is a celebration of Sacramento and a celebration of filmmaking in our area. And we thank you for all the things that you do for us, both in funding on the franchise side, but also with the equipment side. We've made some enormous strides and can't thank you enough. And if you have questions, I'll be happy to address any questions.
Any questions for Gary?
Thank you very much.
Yeah, Gary, thanks for all that you guys do, and that's pretty enlightening. That's awesome to see that kind of response, and I actually kind of wish it wasn't sold out. I would have liked to have gone. That would have been a kind of a fun thing to do.
If you are asking, I can probably find a way to get you in, and if you talk with me afterwards, I'll see if I can make a ticket happen for you.
Okay, maybe we can touch base tomorrow.
Okay. All right, thank you very much.
Okay. And the last on this category, David Lowe.
Good afternoon, David Lowe with KVIE Public Television. First, I wanted to say congratulations to Commissioner Polo for being named to the Sacramento Business Journal's 40 Under 40.
Thank you. Right.
I apologize that states your age in some way, but they named it, not me. I'm a recent awardee as myself. I just won't say how recent, and we can define that loosely. I wanted to share with you a couple of things that we've done on television that no one saw. But we did it because of your overall support. The first was last month, working with the California Office of Emergency Services, we delivered the first earthquake early warning notification in under 3 seconds that's ever happened in the nation. It wasn't seen on TV. It was part of our signal that we embedded, and it was then received by a special encoder. And we're going to continue working with them on practical applications of that, as well as a statewide rollout that we're leading. The second one is something that we're calling KVIE Digital Studios. As we move forward in broadcasting, we're going to keep one foot firmly planted in the live television arena, and then the other one needs to be where this burgeoning audience is and watching videos when they want them, where they want them, how they want them in shorter formats. So I wanted to show you just a brief overview of KVIE Digital Studios, and we can roll video.
PBS quality you love in shorter. KVIE is bringing you something new. Discover and explore your community through KVIE Digital Studios. You'll find the same PBS quality you love in shorter, bite-sized videos.
What I do is I extend the functionality of cosmetics. So they are still done for keeping you pretty, but now with kind of a superpower.
Ovarian cancer is very scary. That's why it's important to be informed and not down the internet rabbit hole informed, properly informed.
The technology can soon be used in patients in space or deep in the ocean.
There's just this feeling of like success when you do something on your own, you make something, and then you can look back at it in the future and say, I did that.
There's a lot of eye contact. There's a lot of smiles. We're having this sensation with skin-to-skin contact. There's this heart and human experience.
You have to squish it. Get them really excited. Get inspired, get engaged, and get exploring. KVIE Digital Studios.
Thank you, David. Okay, next item.
Your next item is your state franchisee reports. Yes, franchisee.
Okay. Even though I don't have a slip for you, Philip, you're more than welcome to come down. Long time no see.
I know you guys probably want to go, but I'll just add one thing. You know about our Internet Essentials program, the one that was started in 2011 for low income families who have kids who are either on the free or reduced lunch program. We announced a couple months ago that we have connected over 6 million Americans, that's about 1.5 million families, to the Internet Essentials program. It's been a great success, and it's just helped in some way to reduce the digital divide. A couple years ago, we expanded the program to reach families who receive assistance from HUD. And then just in August, we announced that we have now expanded it one more time to low-income veterans. So veterans who receive either state or federal assistance are now eligible for our Internet Essentials program. So it continues to grow and prosper. And so one of the things I, in coming before you, ask is that, Internet Essentials has always been more of a grassroots program in terms of we work with local agencies, we work with nonprofit organizations, school districts, and so we intend to do the same with our veterans outreach. And so I am meeting with veterans groups, the VFW and others. In fact, I met just before this meeting, I met with the state economic development, the EDD, the employment department, and we're looking at ways they have veteran services, and we're looking at ways to reach veterans that way. So if you have any thoughts or suggestions, please shoot me an email or give me a call. But we want to reach as many low-cost or low-income veterans as we can to help them get connected to the internet if they're not already. And actually, that's all I have.
Philip,
Thanks.
do you have a marketing piece or something that you
I do. In fact, I have it with me in the car. I'll make sure to leave it with staff.
Well, do you have it electronically?
Yeah.
Could you send that to Bob and Karen? And
okay, I'll send it to Karen.
And me personally, because I'm very well connected with all the veterans groups in Elk Grove.
Great.
And, look at definitely getting that message out there.
Okay.
I think that's a huge, our veterans have done so much for us, and, you still hear about all the ramifications with PTSD. And I know, David, I think you did a special earlier this year on the veterans and the problems that that they've gone and the wars that they've been involved in. And I actually have my oldest brother suffers from PTSD. So those are the kind of things, the services that any corporation who takes on those initiatives, I applaud. So thank you.
Well, thank you. And so I'll make sure to get that to you. And then I would look forward to working with you in the city of Elk Grove as well.
Absolutely.
And all the cities that we cover. So I'll get you the information.
Thank you, Philip. And it's good to see you.
Great. You too.
Been too long.
Thank you. I know.
Okay. That's all we have on that item. What's the next item?
Your last item is your public comments.
And I think everybody who's here has already spoke, unless we get somebody running down the aisle here. I don't see anybody. So it looks like the next item is the adjournment at 3:58. Thank you.